Okay, looks like we're having some minor technical difficulties. Looks like only one stream is broadcasting right now, so we'll try to get that sorted out soon. Looks like one of the runners was practicing resort there. I should also mention that during these tournaments, any donations to the Twitch channel via donations or subscriptions or bits will go straight to the prize pool and be split to scale among the runners that finish in the top, well, within the quarterfinals at least. There's a full breakdown on the GSA challenge page if you want to see how that works. But yeah, donations are absolutely welcome. They provide incentive for the runners. Okay. Still looks like we're just seeing one screen here. Oh, and got someone playing Pico 8 here. If you don't know, Pico 8 is actually the original version of Celeste, also known as Celeste Classic, and it was actually created from the developers. Oh, hello, Mr. Ike.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Am I up?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear. Do you want to join us for a pre-race interview?
I guess if I'm already here.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Cool. So is that you playing Pico 8 right now?
No, it's not. That must be blackpear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's blackpear. Okay. Yeah, so until we get the stream sorted out, yeah, how are you feeling about this race?
I am pretty sure I'm going to lose because I have like a 2.5 minute PB deficit. I am probably more rusty, and I just got home from Thanksgiving break, and I'm playing on a different TV than I'm used to, and it's tough.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
To be honest, I did predict that you would be the loser, but yeah, 2.5 minutes is not completely insurmountable, however, so this should still be interesting, to say the least.
I'm just gonna, try to put on a good show, hopefully.
Yeah, I feel you. And yeah, could you tell us a little about sort of what your plans are for strategies? Like some of the more recent discoveries have been Demo Dash and of course the 5B route. Are you planning on taking any of those?
I'm planning on doing Demo Dash, and I'm definitely not going to do 5B. I wanted to learn it this week, but I was busier than I expected, and I didn't get around to doing that. I only learned like the first half, and it's not really consistent enough. So
yeah,
I'm just sticking with 5A.
Yeah, definitely the safer approach. We've seen 5B be the death of a lot of runs. And yeah, 5A is not... I feel like it's a little over-exaggerated how much of an effect taking the B route has on the runs. Because it saves like, what, about 20 seconds? I mean, depending on each individual runner, but like, yeah, I mean, if you have trouble with like lake skip or something, that could easily like make up the difference right there, and that's learning an entire level just to save that time. So
yeah, I think it would help me a lot though, because my temple is pretty weak, honestly. So definitely after this race or this set of races, it's one of my to-do list things.
Yeah, definitely something for the future. Okay, cool. It looks like we do have your screen up as well as blackpear's, so maybe we'll be beginning shortly. I haven't received word on that yet, and we still don't have the file name, but yeah, thank you for joining me for the pre-race interview, though.
You're welcome. It was nice talking to you. Hopefully the audience can get a little bit of insight into my gameplay and why it may or may not be bad or good.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I can assure you it's good if you're in the quarterfinals for the GSA tournament. That's good in my books, to say the least. Okay, well. Okay, it looks like we are almost there, so we should be starting the race shortly. And thank you for joining me, Mr. Ike.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, so both runners are making their way to the menu. And I believe we have a file name in the Discord, so that should come up onto the screen pretty soon. So while Mr. Ike has told us that he probably will not be taking the 5B route during these races, I haven't heard from blackpear, but I believe it's pretty safe to assume that he will, in fact. Looking at the leaderboard, he actually has the second place IL record for 5B. So, and I believe he set that before the demo drop strategy was actually discovered. So he actually did that using the corner boost, which is a lot harder. So yeah, we should expect a 5B from blackpear, and we'll see if that works toward solidifying a solid lead over Mr. Ike, or whether that could be his demise. So the file name is in place, and pretty soon we will be counted off and start the race. And it looks like they're off. blackpear starting a bit ahead of Mr. Ike, although that is inconsequential. And yeah, as you can see, we're getting a sync up now. This race does use in-game time as opposed to real time. So if what you see on screen isn't perfectly in sync, then it might be a little bit misleading as to who's ahead, assuming the racers are close, which they are now. And it looks like no deaths in prologue, that's good. And they should be finishing within a second of each other. And of course, now that we've learned to dash, things are going to change quite a bit. as anyone will know who has seen a Celeste race or even just the gameplay before. And things are a lot faster now going in City. Mr. Ike, a little bit ahead in real time, of course. That might be different in IGT. No deaths yet. We have... Oh, yeah, okay. So Mr. Ike fumbling a little with that reverse hyper dash, but... Oh no, that's our first death, yeah. So blackpear does take an early lead here. Another death from Mr. Ike. Luckily in City, the screens are all relatively small, and each death can only cost maybe 3 or 4 seconds at most. In the later game, or even the mid-game, starting with Resort actually, some of the screens can get very long and deaths can cause 15 to 20 seconds. And blackpear coming to the final room, climbing that side wall instead of taking the zippers. It looks like both runners have had a successful spike jump. Oh, Mr. Ike misses the end of that wall climb there. But again, not too costly. Does put him behind, I didn't see the timers, but approximately 10 seconds, I'd assume. And blackpear is heading into Old Site, which is the dream sequence of the game. And to represent that, we've got these dream blocks, which you can dash through, and they give you your dash back. It's very fun to play both as a speedrunner and casually. Old Site also features the first occurrence of Battleline, who is another part of you, a pragmatic part of you that kind of gets in the way for a lot of the game, but then you end up joining teams in the end. blackpear, it looks like he was improvising a little on that screen, or maybe that was his strat. I don't know. He went a little against the usual strat there, but whether it was improvisation or intentional, it was definitely not, or definitely a good choice, given that he missed the coin. And fast falling during that that long room, it did cause an unfortunate death at the beginning of the room, but luckily it wasn't toward the end, which would have cost more time. Mr. Ike also coming into that long room. It looks like he hasn't lost too much time over the site. Fast falls as well there. And blackpear is into the awake section. We're seeing some very nice movement from him. Also, definitely one of the harder sections in the early game speedrun. Hit a few bumps there, but nothing too costly. And Mr. Ike is in the awake section as well. It's so easy if you don't have enough practice to just get caught on all those little nooks and crannies and springs. And both runners have made it through with relatively trouble. Both runners are into the resort section now. I've heard of these dust bunnies referred to as several different things by different people. Some call it meatloaf, some call it bacteria. I can see them both. Although, of course, the color doesn't really match up, but I don't think the color really matches to anything. Looks like there's not too many surprises, at least in the beginning of Resort, although the level does get harder as it goes on, and at the end we have the Oshiro section, which has been known to cause a halt to many runs, just because the timing in those rooms is so difficult to get right with Oshiro chasing you. But we'll get to that when we get to that. We've got plenty of stuff coming up first, including Big Mess, which blackpear has just made its way through. One of those rooms that you can't die, but it's still very difficult to navigate cleanly. blackpear showing off his first time spike jump there. Oh, and it looks like blackpear accidentally killed himself when trying to talk to Oshiro. Unfortunately, the way the devs program this game is that the input to restart and to kill yourself is the same as the input to talk to someone, and the only difference is whether or not there's someone to talk to. So if you get your timing off just a little bit, then you could lose a lot of time just trying to skip a cutscene and end up killing Madeline. One of the most costly places to do that is actually the beginning, in the first time you enter Big Mess. That can lose you, I don't know, about 25 seconds or so. Luckily that didn't happen to either runner. And blackpear gets not just the fast cycle, but the fast cycle there. Very impressive. And you don't see a lot of even the top runners doing that. Oh, he does miss the key, however. Meanwhile, Mr. Ike entering the laundry section. Also, in my opinion, this is the best section to look at in the game. The strats here, oh, it does take a death there. But he does have a death cycle strat. Yeah, as I was saying, the laundry section has some of the coolest strats in the game there. Just really fun to watch play out. Blackpear is coming up on Demo Dash, as Mr. Ike is getting his key. Blackpear takes the checkpoint for safety, but doesn't need it. He gets Demo Dash first try. Although the checkpoint is good to have just as sort of a thing to help your mentality. Demo Dash is a pixel-perfect trick, and just knowing that you're not going to lose a good 15 seconds if you miss it can definitely help with your mentality going into it. So maybe that checkpoint wasn't for naught. And Mr. Ike is coming up on Demo Dash as well, as blackpear is in the Oshiro section. Yes, and Mr. Ike showing off that the checkpoint is definitely valuable to take. So even if you fail this several times, like Mr. Ike did, it still usually saves time as long as you can get it within about 3 or 4 tries. That's because the route that it diverges from takes an extra 2 screens. So if you get it first try, it saves about 12 seconds, but even if you fail it, it only costs maybe 3 or 4 seconds. So it's worth going for even if you're not 100% consistent. And blackpear is heading into Ridge as Mr. Ike is finishing up the Oshiro section. He has established a somewhat significant lead. Mr. Ike with 2 more screens of Oshiro. The last screen does tend to be the most pesky. And a lot of runners have to learn both the entry and death cycle for this room. But Mr. Ike makes it through just fine. Okay, and blackpear is coming up on his first auto-scroller skip. He takes a relatively risky strat, not the most risky. There is a way that you can get that with an ultra dash. But yeah, risky strats are only worth it if you don't die on them, so. Oftentimes, taking the safer routes are definitely more preferable, even if you're 90% consistent with the harder strats. Because one death can cost a lot more time than the fast strats tend to save for rooms like that. Mr. Ike also showing off his wall bouncing ability. It's a very fun section to play once you've really honed in and gotten it right. It looks like Mr. Ike taking the same strat for that auto-scroller skip. So those auto-scroller skips, it's very risky doing some of the hard strats on that because the auto-scrollers just move so slowly, so even though the screen isn't that large, it still does waste a lot of time because there are several screens with auto-scrollers that it's kind of a necessity to wait for. And blackpear finishes up Ridge, and we'll be moving on to Mirror Temple, where we expect, or at least I expect, that he will be taking the B route. Mr. Ike getting another auto-scroller skip first try. Oh, dying on that screen. This one can be tough to go for the fast cycle there. And a lot of runners, they opt into just taking the usual route. Might be a good idea for Mr. Ike, although... Nope, he does finally get it. And blackpear does get the Yeet corner boost. And he is going to go for the cassette here. So 5B has been confirmed. Oh, it looks like he didn't get his dash back while wave dashing. I'm not sure what happened there. And he also gets the fast strat in the cassette room. And Mr. Ike finishing up Ridge just fine. Now the runs definitely are going to diverge here. Since Mr. Ike has told us that he will be taking 5A. These are completely separate levels, although the art and mechanics work similarly. The screens are all very different. And if you don't know, the 5B route is much more... The developers made B-sides for every single level in the game. And... Oh no, blackpear... Okay, so blackpear did miss that, yeah, I'm gonna call it demo drop. Which unfortunately cost him quite a bit. And he will be taking 5B, the normal route, instead of retrying again. Unfortunately, this means I believe he won't be saving time with 5B. But it's still going to be nice to see just the strats in these rooms, because they're very difficult. Oh, ran out of stamina just at the wrong time there. That's unfortunate. Okay, and Strike, taking a few more bubbles, we'll be coming up on the unraveling section shortly, where we get to deal with Seekers. Oh, and actually both of them are in the mirror rooms in their respective levels at the same time. Of course, being 5B, this does mean that blackpear is still in the lead, because the unraveling and Theo sections of 5B are significantly shorter. And blackpear uses those Seeker explosions to his advantage to propel himself, rather than waiting for the Seeker to bump into a bunch of crumble blocks, which takes significantly longer. Also a very cool strat to see. And a couple more Theo rooms. It can be a struggle to hit these switches to get through them, and if you die on one of the to one of these Seekers, then it takes you back to the beginning of that room, so that can be costly to die on. But blackpear does not. And blackpear gets through the impossible room just fine. And he gets the heart, and he is out of Chapter 5. Whereas Mr. Ike is also finishing up unraveling here. He's got the entire 5A Theo section to get through, though. So it looks like the fact that blackpear wasn't able to get that demo strat wasn't too harmful, since he does still have a significant lead going into Reflection. Oh, Mr. Ike dying on the screen before Search Skip. Search Skip is the biggest skip in the 5A section. It skips an entire section where you have to go search for some keys and then get a bubble. And it was actually intended by the developers, although it may not look like it. And blackpear climbing that wall, that one last neutral wall jump. Oh, he does, or his Kevin block does hit that other block, unfortunately. Not a lot of time lost, but it just doesn't look as cool if you don't get that strat. And Mr. Ike is on to the Theo section. He missed that switch with Theo, but was able to climb and get it. I've heard a lot of runners say that the 5A Theo section is actually harder than the 5. I don't play 5B myself enough to really know if that's true, but it's definitely got more screens to it, so practicing it does take more time. And Mr. Ike getting the fast strat there, very nice. Blackpear is showing off his skill using the bumpers and the reflection. Bumpers are notoriously difficult to use because if you're off hitting them by just a few pixels, they will send you on a very different trajectory. And you can end up playing a game of pinball inadvertently if you're not careful. Okay, Mr. Ike coming to the final section of Theo. throws him into the giant eyeball for plot reasons. And he will be joining blackpear in Reflection shortly. By the way, I want to shout out to the game design in Reflection. It pulls off something that's very difficult to do. In this game, oftentimes falling off a screen and to the bottom of the level, if there's no ground, will often kill you. However, Reflection, through the level design, actually finds a way to demonstrate that sometimes it's actually intentional, and you need to go down to get to the next screen. And that's not something that's very intuitive to do, but this game pulls it off very well with just a few exceptions. And yeah, the reason why I mention it in Reflection is because the general direction for this level is downwards, whereas usually for the other sections you're climbing the mountain, so you're going up and to the right. In this one, you're going down, and that's kind of representative of what the character, the point that the character is at. They've kind of hit rock bottom. For us speedrunners, it does mean that we're going to be dashing, or using our dash to go downwards quite a bit. Not just because of the level design, but also because of how battle line works. As you can see, every time blackpear runs into battle line, he's sort of thrown up into the air like that. And just lingering in the air can waste a lot of time. So most of the dashes you see are actually just getting to the ground, so that you can get your dash back and then use that speed tech to get forward. Mr. Ike is making his way through the opening of Reflection. Also showing off that a lot of these screens are pretty wide open, and you can really show off some of your extended hypers and other speed tech. And he isn't going to go through the middle of those pumpers. Probably a smart choice. It looked like that opening closing off rather quickly. Blackpear is on the final screen of Battle Line, gets through without a hitch. That's good, because dying there can cost probably 15-20 seconds. And after a few wall bounces, blackpear has reached the end of Reflection. And Mr. Ike coming up on Battle Line boost. Very nice Battle Line boost from him. Blackpear is making his way very quickly through the base of Summit. Summit is a chapter that's divided into several different sections that are all representative of the previous chapters. Since plot-wise we are climbing the mountain again. However, since we do have an extra dash now, the screens are a lot different, and of course more challenging. And yeah, blackpear does get that that early wall grab onto that zipper. Very cool looking strat. Saves a few seconds. Meanwhile, Mr. Ike is sort of at the midpoint of Badline. The one screen in Badline where he actually can't really die. Always a welcome screen to get to because Badline can be pretty exhausting. Now, blackpear is in the 1,000-meter section. That's a bit of a different strat than usual. Probably probably takes just as much time. I think a lot of people follow the same strat that Tej uses there. And blackpear coming into 1,500 meters, which until recently was regarded as one of the hardest sections of the run. Still is one of the hardest sections, but with 5B in the route, that was definitely another contender. And Mr. Ike is finishing up Reflection. And it looks like we are getting an IGT sync. Looks like IGT wasn't too far off, actually. And blackpear making it through definitely one of the harder screens on Summit. Those snowballs, it can be very difficult to find a strat that can get through them safely. And what these top runners tend to use is a strat that involves several ultra dashes. And there's the vertical auto scroller skip from blackpear. We haven't seen a lot of deaths from either of these runners in the last few chapters. It seems that their nerves may have worn off quite a bit. Okay, Mr. Ike is getting into 1,000 meter as blackpear is in the 2,500. Oh, gets a corner boost off of that. That can be risky because I've seen runners get that corner boost and go directly into the spikes there. And blackpear getting the first try key skip. Very nice. Mr. Ike also showing in the 1,000 meter that you can actually hyper out of dream blocks. It's a very cool strat to pull off, although if your timing is a little wrong, you can end up accidentally dashing diagonally down into the ground, or if there's no ground, you can kill yourself that way. Luckily, neither of these runners suffer that embarrassment. And blackpear has made it through the final screen of 2,500, one of the most punishing screens to die on. And now he will be hunting down flags on his way to the top summit. I'm not sure, but I believe blackpear is on pace to PB. His PB is a 3110. So I'll keep an eye out for that. Does have a death on downdraft, but it's not a very punishing one. And Mr. Egg coming to the end of 1500. I would say he's through the hard stuff, but that would be a lie because the 2000 and 2500, well, actually the rest of the entire run is still very difficult. And blackpear is performing phenomenally, getting these flags can definitely be the trickiest. Because like mentally, if you're on PB pace, there's a lot of pressure, and during the updraft section, gravity acts differently. So if you haven't practiced this extensively, then it's very easy to get thrown off. But blackpear has been showing that this is not a problem for a runner like him. Oh, and Mr. Ike is having a little trouble with this upwards auto-scroller. Luckily, his... Oh, whoa. Okay. Recovered there. And blackpear is on the final few flags. Flag 3. This is going to be a very close. This is going to be very close to blackpear's PB. If this goes without a hitch, I believe he is going to get it though. And that is a 30.55 from blackpear. That's a 15-second PB, which is definitely significant considering the caliber of runner that blackpear is. Shaving off those few seconds can be very difficult. So definitely congratulations to blackpear for that. Meanwhile, Mr. Ike is also doing very well compared to his respective time. I'm not sure if he's on PB pace. It's kind of difficult to tell until he reaches the actual 3,000 meters. And he's on the final screen of 2,500 there. So he is up against a 33.52. So I don't think it's quite possible, but Mr. Ike still is on a very good pace here. Oh, and Mr. X taking a few deaths on downdraft here. This can be a very tricky section since gravity pulls you down. A lot of the inputs have to happen much quicker than in the rest of the race. And the timing can be very difficult technically. The other thing with downdraft and updraft is that you can't really rely on your sense of distance because with gravity acting differently, then vertical distances really mean something else. And especially with downdraft, like when you do perform downdraft well, like you do find yourself a lot closer to those spikes than you normally would if gravity acted normally. And especially with the pressure of a race setting, that can be incredibly challenging. It also doesn't help that these sections are right next to each other, so you go from the insane wind pulling you down to the insane wind pulling you up. So it's very stark contrast between the two sections. And Mr. Ike makes it through flag 14 and 13. Both very challenging flags and very costly flags. And skipping flag 8, which we see a lot of runners doing. Oh no! Looked like he was trying to wall bounce there, but didn't quite get it. Again, too. There we go. Finally hit that cloud. And Mr. Egg coming up on final 6 flags. Oh, he goes for that diagonal dash there. Gets it second try. Unfortunately, it does cost him instead of saving time. And he's on to the final flag. Just getting over a few more spikes, and then he will finish with a 35.42. Definitely a respectable time from Mr. Ike coming in. So yeah, if you missed it, blackpear has taken 1, and he's also gotten a 15-second PB. So yeah, both runners will take a short break, and we will be joined for a race 2. So while we're doing that, I mentioned at the beginning, but in case you joined us, we have quite a day planned out for us at GSA. We've got several Mario Kart Double Dashes coming up at 5, 6, and 8 p.m. We also have a Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey at 7. And then if you're here for Celeste, definitely stay tuned at 9 p.m. Between TGH and Nero. That's the first race of the semifinals of this Any Tournament. And it's definitely going to be a good one to watch. These are the 2 top runners on the leaderboard right now, both the sub 30 times, so definitely a race to stay tuned for. Okay, and it looks like both runners have had a brief break, probably calmed down their nerves after those performances on Summit, and we should be back with race 2 shortly. We will also have a new file name this race. The file name is just a precaution. It's a cheat prevention method so that we know that the runners are actually running in real time and not just uploading a video or something like that. Okay, and with the file names ready, they should be beginning shortly. And Mr. Ike is off to the start. Again, since this race does use IGT, we're going to sync up so that we can see both in-game timers side by side and be able to see on your screen who's ahead. Although we shouldn't see a significant lead until after prologue for unintentional deaths here. And both runners have learned how to dash. Probably the biggest game-changing event right there, getting your dash ability. I don't think this game would be nearly as popular if we were just hopping our way through it. And it looks like, same as last race, Mr. Ike is off to a faster start, RTA, but like I mentioned, that is insignificant since this race does use in-game time. And it looks like both runners are performing very well here. There are no fumbles like Mr. Ike was having in the last race, so maybe we'll see a closer race this time if Mr. Ike is definitely on point and not feeling as nervous. That being said, last race blackpear did have a 15-second PB while also not even taking the fast strat for 5B. So it's very clear that blackpear has put in lots of practice recently. And despite being such a competitive runner, it wouldn't really surprise me if you were able to PB again. But of course, it's way too early to tell that, as both runners are just out of City here and onto Old Site. Oh, and blackpear taking a death there. I believe both runners are just about the same, since Mr. Ike's in-game time is about 5 minutes ahead. Or sorry, behind. This is definitely less of a gap than we were seeing last race. Oh, Mr. Ike actually gets crushed by that block. That is an unfortunate way to go on that screen. Oh, and it looks like he didn't hold jump on his... Oh, and then he misses the coin there. Ah, yikes. Mr. Ike demonstrating that battling can definitely be a problem if you get off strat during these screens. Anytime you have to retrace your steps, you want to do so very carefully, because Battleline follows you and does your exact movement just a few seconds later. And of course, if she hits you, then you die and have to restart the screen. And blackpear has caught up, and he will be going on to before Mr. Ike. And blackpear is out of old sight as Mr. Ike is going through the awake section. Again, very good movement from both of these runners here. Very difficult section to perform, even though you can't actually die. Blackpear going through the opening resort screens. Both these runners are having absolutely zero trouble with that first indoor screen on resort, which for lesser runners can be a very big problem. Okay, and blackpear is a few screens away from big mess. Hopefully he'll, yeah, okay. So he does talk to Oshiro correctly. Which seems like it's not hard, but then again, if you screw it up, then you could definitely lose quite a lot of time if you accidentally retry the screen. Mr. Ike, also on big mess. And Mr. Ike getting that first try spike jump. Quick death from blackpear there. And blackpear entering the laundry section, as Mr. Ike is taking care of those books. And blackpear does get that extremely fast strat on that screen. Not something I see a lot of runners doing. Oh no. Okay. Well, quick recovery. That's the second time that he... Looks like he missed the floor this time, whereas last time he missed the key itself. And Mr. Ike is finishing his laundry section too. Let's see if either runner is going to get a first try demo dash. blackpear taking the checkpoint for safety, even though he did get it first time last time. And checkpoint does pay off, as Pear does fail his first demo dash. Okay, gets a third try, so it still saves time, but not as much as if he got it first. Looks like Mr. Ike bopped his head there, but was able to... And Mr. Ike is coming up on demo dash as blackpear is in the Oshiro section. Takes the checkpoint, and not first try. Second try demo dash from Mr. Ike. And blackpear is finishing off the last screen of Resort, as Mr. Ike has entered the Oshiro section himself. So there is a rather significant gap, but it's not as significant as last time. And I believe this is because of Mr. Ike improving, not blackpear taking more deaths or anything like that. So Mr. Ike had some hesitation on that screen. Not exactly sure why. Didn't die or anything though, so that's good. Oh, and he might be off cycle for the rest of this. Yeah, he's definitely off cycle. He didn't get his dash back there for some reason. So yeah, taking the rest of the screen safely, but does make it through. Blackpear bouncing on some clouds there. Oh, it looks like he got that spike jump, but yeah, he moved to the right a little too early there. But he does make it through eventually and is on to some wall bounces. Bridge is a difficult chapter for a number of reasons. You've got the wind mechanics paired with the cloud mechanics, which lead to some very wonky interactions. That's a problem that both speedrunners and casual players experience. And then if you're looking to shave time off, we've also got several screens with auto-scrollers that take a while to wait for, and also feature some pretty advanced strats to optimize. And dying to those can definitely be very punishing. It looks like both runners are on auto-scroller skip, although they're on different auto-scroller skips. And they both get through flawlessly. And here blackpear is entering the harsh wind section, where if you're a casual player, or have ever played this game, you'll know trying to fight that wind without your is agonizingly slow. Oh no. It looks like blackpear bopped that snowball while he was in the bubble. Oh, and that looked like a misdirected dash as well. So yeah, a little bit of struggle from blackpear there. Nothing too hard to come back from. And it's just got one more screen, really. Meanwhile, Mr. Ike also ascending that screen and into Harsh Wind himself. Getting onto the backside of that auto-scroller. And now he'll be dealing with both Harsh Wind and Snowball. Oh. Didn't expect that Snowball coming, but he got over it just fine. And blackpear, I think we're all expecting him to take the 5B route again. This is where the run did go south for him, if you could call it that. He's still PB'd, but yeah, during the 5B route last time, he actually missed the demo fall strat that was just discovered a few weeks ago, and went through 5B the normal route, which definitely cost him a significant chunk of time. Does not get yeet. But he will be going for the tape. Meanwhile, Mr. Ike is going through, presumably with the 5A that he did last time. I believe the gap between them has significantly decreased from last race. And it looks like Mr. Ike didn't get the corner boost on E either. Again, not too much time wasted. It's just a really cool strat if you do happen to get it. Okay, short death from blackpear, but here's the moment that counts. Coming up on the screen transition, that's going to save lots of time, and he gets it first try. Okay, so even though he's struggling a tiny bit on some of the minor mechanics, that was definitely a huge time save from blackpear. So, oh, and he gets that diagonal dash too. Meanwhile, Mr. Ike is heading into unraveling. Blackpear just a screen away from his unraveling. Okay, yeah. So as you can see, the developers, I'm pretty sure they made those screens look almost identical. Of course, the rest of the level is not going to be. And blackpear manages to land that Seeker right on the coin, so it doesn't have to wait for the explosion. So yeah, we're seeing definitely a significant improvement on blackpear's 5B, but also Mr. Ike. Even though blackpear got that demo fall on 5B, the gap still is smaller than last race for sure. So this is definitely a good setup for both runners. Blackpear struggle. Oh no. Oh jeez. This is a scary thing to deal with when you've got Theo sandwiched in between two Seekers like that. Okay. Blackpear is out of that long screen. And Mr. Ike is coming up on search skip. And Blackpear has gotten the heart, and he is out of Chapter 5. Definitely proving that, especially at this caliber of runs, 5B is such a huge determining factor in the race. Blackpear did have a significant lead before, but now it has... yeah, now it's definitely shown just how powerful of a skip that can be, even though it does involve learning an entirely new chapter. It's much harder. Meanwhile, Mr. Ike is in the Theo section himself, showing off some of the strats involving ultras. And on the final screen of Theo, and gets out of there just fine. Oh, Blackpear dying to the spikes there. It looks like he had too much momentum going to the screen. Okay. Mr. Ike opting out of Lake Skip. Not a bad decision, as we've definitely seen some runners lose significant time in the attempt during this tournament. Okay, and Blackpear narrowly avoiding those. Can definitely be a scary room if you mess up the timing even a little bit there. And Blackpear going through these developer-intended shortcuts. Luckily, he doesn't die on the last one because he hadn't taken the checkpoint. I say luck, but it's actually skill. A lot of the top tier runners opt out of that. And here comes the battle line boost. And it's good. I'd also like to point out here that Mr. Ike is definitely ahead of where he was last race. I believe last race, as Blackpear was entering Battle Line, Mr. Ike was just entering Reflection, so there's definitely been some optimizations and time saving. Not to mention, I believe Blackpear is also ahead of where race, so both of these runners are showing significant improvements. Blackpear skipping the feather there. It's actually just hypering off of those little pieces of ground is faster than the feather itself. And Mr. Ike coming up on Battle Line Boost. Oh, it does hit the ground there. Oh, and Dyson spikes too. Luckily the developers put a checkpoint in there, so you don't have to do the entire boost over again. And Blackpear is finishing off this sort of pacifist screen of Battle Line and is onto the remix section. And Blackpear is in the final screen of Battle Line. It can be very costly if he dies. Looks like he's gonna play it. Oh no! That room is gonna cost him. I don't know if it's enough to throw him off of PB pace. Probably not. But still, definitely not a good room to die on. Does make it through a second try though, so he will be wall bouncing his way out of Reflection in Summit. Okay, and Mr. Ike is coming into the remix section of Battle Line himself, where Madeline starts throwing these blocks around the room. It may look random, but the blocks actually are on a cycle, so it's not... it actually is very predictable. Of course, with the rate that these speedrunners are going, you tend to only see one cycle, so... it looks scary, but it's actually quite predictable. And Mr. Ike, let's see if he's going to be able to make it through this screen first try. And he does, narrowing the gap even more between them. Not that we're expecting Mr. Ike to catch up to Blackpear at this point, but showing the narrower gap is definitely a good sign that Mr. Ike is getting closer to his PB. Blackpear is in 500 as Mr. Ike is just starting out Summit. And we are getting an IGT sync here. And Blackpear is actually struggling a bit with this screen. Oh, he's going for that Ultra Strat. I did not see him do that last time. So it looks like he might be playing it a bit fancy here. Oh no, Mr. Ike took a death trying to dash down to that spring and hit it on its side. And blackpear dashing his way around the key room. Sorry, coin room, not keys. And now showing off his hypering out of dream blocks. Meanwhile, Mr. Ike is in the city portion of Summit, the 500 meter. Oh no, looks like Mr. Ike got bonked on that wall trying to reach that spring. And blackpear is on 1500 meter. One of the hardest sections of Summit right here. Okay, short death there. Luckily the death cycle for that screen is actually significantly easier than the entrance cycle, although it is a little slower. And a couple more screens and blackpear is going to be on his way to the 2000 meter. Okay, blackpear getting that wall bounce up to that screen, but taking a couple deaths at the beginning of it. And navigating through the snowballs. Oh, bopping the last one there. I don't know if that was intentional, but it was very close. And Mr. Ike is on his 1500 meter, making his way through these screens just beautifully. Oh, okay. Didn't quite get the cycle he wanted, but no worries. Does get through that triple ultra room just fine. Very difficult strat. Oh, and dies on the dust bunnies there. Okay, so taking it safe on that room. Oh. Okay. Mr. Ike accidentally bonking himself, but he was able to recover. And it looks like he's using the screen transitions to make sure that he's on the entrance cycle for this last room in 1500. And blackpear threading the needle, skipping the doors. And it looks like blackpear is going to be coming up on the 3000 at about 29 minutes, maybe a little less. So I do not believe he is on PB pace, unfortunately, but he is not far behind it either. Oh, looks like He managed to misdirect a dash. I'm not sure exactly how that happened. Oh, and Mr. Ike is having trouble on auto-scroller skip too. Okay, and both these runners seem to have recovered from those past blunders. Blackpear finishing off the downdraft section with finesse. And Mr. Ike will be on to 2,500. Blackpear on some of the most challenging screens in Summit right now. Or not screens, flags. Since the entire 3,000 meter is kind of just a few giant screens. We got these flags as checkpoints instead. Oh, and Mr. Ike taking the death in this room. And threads the needle second try. Does get door skip. And Blackpear finishing up the final 3 flags here. It looks like this race he will go on to face M Sushi in the semifinals. So congrats to him for the win and B that got last week, or last race, last week. And it looks like both these runners will be in Summit or in 3,000 meter at the same time. So this race definitely was closer than the last one. And Blackpear finishing with a 31.52 there. And we're seeing a very clean downdraft from Mr. Ike. Oh. Okay, it looks like he died while trying to fast fall a bit there. Fast falling during the updraft section is definitely it definitely saves a lot more time than fast falling in other places, since gravity makes Madeline so light here. However, it does also mean that you've got some inputs to worry about and that can throw you off of your other strat. Taking that neutral jump over the spike. Uh-oh. Okay, and skipping flag 8 as most top runners do. Reaches the screen transition, and is on to the final 6 flags. Here's the difficult section. Gets the vertical or the diagonal dash first try. Uh-oh. Does take a death there. Oh no. He dashed a little too early. Just wasn't able to get that distance. Okay, yeah. Taking that safely the second time. And a little struggle on flag 1 here, too. But it looks like he's through the hard part, and he is finishing with a 35.04. GG to Mr. Ike, and to Pear, who will be continuing on to face M Sushi in the semifinals. Good race from both runners. And we'll see if either of them are feeling like joining me for a post-race interview. Quick reminder that up next in about half an hour... Oh, hello, Mr. Ike. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Oh.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was muted for a little bit, so I probably made some just disgusting microphone noises there for a little bit.
No problem. Just a little confusing, but yeah, hey, congratulations. Yeah, so how are you feeling now that it's over? Are you kind of relieved or?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, those kind of went pretty much exactly how I thought they would go. Is
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a lot of it's a lot of mistakes that it's like I really feel like I shouldn't be making these mistakes, but when I'm in a completely new environment, I haven't played with sound in 3 months because my monitor back at school
Oh,
like
wow.
the way it's hooked up doesn't have sound, or you can't like have sound on the stream and actually playing sound at the same time for some reason.
That's pretty
And then,
game changing because, like, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of audible cues in this game too, and like, I don't know, I couldn't imagine playing without being able to hear my dashes. That seems like it'd be very game changing. Yeah.
yeah, and also like look at this journal. Like this pretty much explains how a lot of my runs go. Like those death counts. Not a single
Yeah.
one above 5 until summit, and then it's 21, and I have an 11:02. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and actually
Yeah,
that was annoying as well because I was actually minus 22 going into summit off of reflection because the second run actually it wasn't too bad. There was like old site was really bad, but the other chapters were like average or above average based on what I usually will do.
yeah. Yeah, and you are keeping up. You're definitely keeping that gap narrower than all through reflection, at least. And yeah. So anyway, now you are unfortunately out of the tournament. How do you feel about Celeste going forward? Like, do you have any plans for it? Are you gonna keep grinding any percent, or do you have something else?
Yeah, I want to get a better time. I at least want to learn I want to learn 5B because that seems like a really cool just in terms of routing and in terms of the gameplay itself because there's a lot of parts of 5A I really don't like that and I feel like 5B is way more my style of level despite the fact that in Summit that you may not think that's the case like based on dying in all these long rooms.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think it would be a lot of fun to just learn that, do some runs with that. And because the fact that like 508 Mirror Temple, which what I got this run, like that was an okay Mirror Temple for me. So if I could learn 5B and learn it well, I really feel like I could save a lot of time there and get a good run. And once I get a better run, I want to start learning other categories as well, especially just B-side categories like all hearts, all chapters. Those sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it does. It's probably good not to have that pressure of the tournament lingering over your head if you're gonna learn routes like 5B and stuff, because that does take obviously a significant amount of practice. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly.
Yeah, well, good luck to you moving forward.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. So yeah, finishing up this race. Yeah, as I mentioned, Black Pair will be moving on to face M Sushi in the semifinals. And up next, we have several Mario Kart Double Dash races coming up. Next one's in about 25 minutes. And then if you're here for Celeste, stay tuned at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have a race, TGH versus Nero. And that's definitely going to be an exciting one to see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're definitely yeah, both of them have sub 30 times. They're definitely going to be butting heads with each other there. So it'll be exciting to see. And thank you again for joining me. And yeah, I'm terrible at ending these, but I'm going to go now. See y'all later.